So, yeah, what an icebreaker question to ask someone you just met. Are you addicted to sex? Because I need to know. Like, they will tell you the truth, or even they will admit it to themselves. I bring in a sex therapist today to cover this topic: sex addiction, erectile dysfunction, premature ejaculation. Are you having problems keeping it up? Does size really matter? Men and women, this conversation with Nick and I right here, this, you just gotta hear it. Come for a ride on the healing train. I'm Rania, your host, relationship coach, speaker, author, practicing energy healing modalities. I bring to you these discussions so we can heal, become empowered, and grow together. This content contains mature subject matters. Listener and viewer discretion is advised. To work with me, you can find me on www.r2rcoaching.ca. Want to be a guest on the show? Send an email to guest@healingtrain.ca. Hello and welcome once again on another episode on the Healing Train podcast with yours truly, Rania. So today we are talking about sex, relationships, and everything in between. And today I have a special guest with me, Nick. Nick, welcome to the show.
Hi, Rania. Thank you. I appreciate it. Yeah, I'm Nick. I'm a sex therapist and a psychologist in Alberta, in Red Deer, Alberta, actually, right in between Edmonton and Calgary. And yeah, I'm excited to have this conversation today.
Thank you so much, Nick, for joining me because on this particular episode, it's very important that I bring in some element of professionalism, let's say. I've had other guests on the show where we're not like experts, but you are an expert, and that's why I'm bringing you in to speak with someone who is more knowledgeable. And my mission, as always, to raise awareness, whatever topic we are talking about, especially on this Healing Train podcast, where I want to raise awareness about the dynamics that we end up in, our human experience, and sex is one of them. It's a very, very important subject that we need to talk about. We need to talk about our sexual health more than just talking about the crazy and interesting and spicy stuff. We also want to talk about some misunderstood conditions that could be out there that we don't understand it. We don't know what they mean. And perhaps we need to understand what it looks like going and getting that professional help and get the stigma out of it. Some of the points I will be covering today with Nick will revolve around sex addiction, which is a very important topic, erectile dysfunction, and some other conditions that we will talk about. And we'll see where the conversation flows. So, Nick, I'm like, you do this job day in and day out. You must really love it. Please tell us how you got into it from the first place.
Yeah, honestly, yeah, I absolutely love this job. It's so exciting and so curious every single time I have somebody come in. But realistically, how I got into the mental health field, I was just like kind of any other guy in high school, and I would not talk about my problems or anything like that. I had a really good buddy who kind of pulled it out of me, and I was like, oh, that actually feels pretty good. And then I started just chatting with friends and realized that it was just kind of felt real nice and natural to talk about some of the deeper things with some of my friends. And then in particular, I loved talking about relationships. That was always my passion. And then my second year of college, I took a psychology of sexuality class, and it just blew my mind. And I was like, yeah, this is where I need to be. And I guess 15 years later, here I am.
Wow, 15 years.
Yeah,
And
it's been a journey.
It's not awkward when you speak sexual terms with people that they meet you for the first time. Like, who is it awkward for more, you or them?
Oh, always them. Um, yeah, it's honestly one of my favorite activities I do with my clients is if they're feeling uncomfortable, we literally just kind of have a laughing moment where we kind of go through all the slang words for different kinds of genitalia or different kinds of sex and stuff like that. And it helps break the ice a lot. But yeah, every once in a while, I'll have to, they'll be using innuendos. I'm like, oh, so you're talking about having sex, right? So yeah, it's fun. I like kind of breaking that ice for them a little bit.
That's good. And I'm happy that you're sharing that because now people who are listening or watching to us right now start to see that maybe it's not all that bad and that depending on who you choose, obviously, and you feel comfortable reaching out to for help can make it less uncomfortable because it is an uncomfortable subject. So let's talk about the non-fun subjects you talk about. What would you say, Nick, in your line of work, the most common issues, like generally speaking, that people come to you for?
Honestly, with sexuality, the most common, because I do a lot of couples work, is that two different people want different things out of sex. But outside of that, I would honestly say just a generalization is that people want to have quote on unquote normal sex, but normal sex is pretty subjective, I'll say. So,
I'm glad you said that. It is perspective and it's different for everyone. I don't think there is such a thing as normal sex. I really don't. It's what you enjoy, and what you enjoy will be different from what someone else enjoy. And I would say also it has to do with compatibility. Would you say so, Nick?
compatibility is big, but I would honestly say like you can you can find compatibility even if it's not naturally there. It's kind of about having those conversations and figuring out, okay, how can we be compatible? And like depending on what somebody's interest is, like their partner may or may not be interested in that same type of same type of sex, but there might be a close cousin to that same type of sex that they can find a little bit of that same exciting feeling, just switching it up just a tad.
Yes, I guess it's being open to experimenting and to see where your relationship with your partner is going. Now, do you normally get married mainly, or do you also get people come to you who are just like in a regular dating relationship?
I would say they're mostly long-term relationships. Yeah, often that ends up being the way. Some people they realize there's some sexual compatibility issues off the bat. But for a lot of people, it's kind of like, yeah, we've tried a lot of different things and we just can't seem to figure out how we can make this work in our relationship. And sex is important to one or both of us, and we want to have um, good sex. And I guess going back to it, that statement I made earlier on the normal sex, it's always kind of funny when I hear that because, people go to a sex therapist and their goal isn't for normal sex, it's to have good sex. But good sex is, like you said earlier, what's good for the people, not what's normal. So, yeah, it's always a fun one.
Mm. Well, I want to get a little deeper into this big topic, sex addiction. Okay, it's a big one. And I feel that there are people out there who don't even understand what it truly means. Like for me, I'm thinking, okay, what really could sex addiction mean? It could mean someone who's just addicted to sex, period. They just want to have sex. It could be someone who's interested in having sex with different people because they don't want to just be with one partner, right? Like, so that could be that. Or it could be addicted to the release, to the orgasm, and because they want that, they're addicted to that because there's, hormonal things that, you know more about. And it could be many of those things. Maybe you can explain to us from your knowledge, your expertise, your experience, all of it together.
Yeah, sounds good. Well, sex addiction, I will start off by saying it is one of the things we talk about quite a bit in the sex therapy world, and there's honestly some polarizing views on what it is sex addiction. And there's a lot of people that do use an actual sex addiction model, which is very similar to kind of like your 12 steps with AA or all that kind of stuff. And some people do get some benefit out of it. Myself, I use something called the out of control sexual behaviors model. And basically, what it talks about is sex itself, there's nothing wrong with. It's sex is great, all that stuff. But lots of us, we develop a relationship with sex, which it may be like we're struggling with communication with our partner. We're struggling with knowing how to cope with stress. We're struggling with all these different things. And so we have these compulsive sexual behaviors that we do to deal with these situations. And then the big thing when it comes to anything mental health wise is it has to cause some type of clinical distress. And realistically, like, I don't know, having a lot of sex doesn't necessarily cause a lot of clinical distress, but you're having a lot of sex with people that aren't your partner, that might cause a lot of clinical distress. Or if you're watching a ton of porn, once again, depending, porn itself, nothing wrong with, but depending on what you do with that and your point of watching it, porn can be a great for developing fantasy and all that stuff. With your partner, it can be great to just kind of explore the world. But if porn is kind of your way of coping with stress, or because you can't tell your partner, this is what I want, so I'm going to just watch porn, that's where we get into the areas that we need to tackle. And I will say trauma is often played into that whole dance where people feel that there's shame around sex, and that ends up leading to doing these behaviors that they feel they are completely out of control.
So would you say that someone who were learned along their journey that there's shame around sex in whichever way, they would kind of go the opposite and rebel and say, okay, I'm not supposed to do it, so now I'm just going to do too much of it? Is it kind of like that?
Kind of, I would honestly say shame. I tell a lot of my clients like shame is something that actually ends up getting us stuck a lot of the time. And if we identify something as like I'm flawed or I'm wrong or something like that, then it makes it a lot more difficult to kind of change things. So versus doing a behavior that we're like, hey, I don't really like that I do this behavior, we're kind of just talking like, okay, I want to change this behavior. But if we're talking about shame, shame is often more like I'm a bad person because I do this behavior. And once we do that, we're no longer just changing a behavior. We're changing so many things because you done yourself by this behavior.
Well, sex or no sex, I always say we need to be able to separate who a person is and what they do in
Oh
all
yeah.
aspects in our life, period. And with the sex, yeah, it's no different.
Oh, 100%. 100%. And honestly, like I guess that's the big thing though, is that, yeah, the out of control sexual behaviors model is so important on recognizing this is a behavior that you have, and this behavior is not working well with the lifestyle that you have. And so we need to change it. But realistically, if it doesn't break any, if it's pleasurable for everybody, if it's consensual for everybody, I don't care how often you have sex. At that point, it's all as long as it's pleasurable and consensual, that's everything.
When does it become a very big problem, Nick? When does it really become dangerous?
Uh, it can definitely become dangerous, well, when it affects relationship stability, and familial stability. Um, that's kind of like the big one I am going to say is when it does affect relationship and familial stability. In general, I like to say like sex is supposed to be about pleasure. And when we make it more about avoidance, sex doesn't have the same meaning to it. Um, Sex about pleasure is fun, it's carefree, there's connection, all that stuff. But then when we're having sex in a place where it's, yeah, more about avoiding the uncomfortable stuff, well, then that kind of, it no longer has that pleasure aspect. It's just something we do to cope, to deal. Doesn't sound too fun to me, honestly.
What about the addiction to the hormones that are released as a result of the sexual activity?
Well, that's when we get into the whole debate on is sex addiction a real thing? Because naturally the brain produces dopamine whenever we're kind of experiencing anything that we like. But, we get dopamine from so many different things. So it's kind of like, once again, people can't cope with that lack of dopamine. And so dopamine is the thing that they're after. Sex is the only thing that they've learned can get them dopamine. And you're going to do it any sort of way in order to get that dopamine. And that's not, once again, if you're doing it to avoid the uncomfortable, that's not sex. Sex is, well, I can't say it's not sex, it's just not pleasurable sex.
Yes, yes. I mean, from what you're saying and with our discussion here, it seems to me that it could be an escape, right? It's a coping mechanism, just another coping mechanism, just another thing that we end up having as a habit or a pattern, and we just get stuck into it and we can't get out. It's kind of like being addicted to shopping. There are people who are addicted to shopping, right?
Oh,
There
yeah.
are people who are addicted to watching movies all the time, or just like whatever habit it is that you do to a point of being like so unconscious, you're just doing it all the time and it loses its meaning
Yeah.
and it becomes like destructive to some point. Sex addiction is just the same. You're just avoiding something, you're escaping from something, you're using it as a coping mechanism, just like anything else. So it now here's the question. How can it get cured? I don't know if I use the right word, cured here, but how can someone manage? Let's just say, okay, let's manage the sex addiction. Any tools?
Honestly, the first one is recognizing like that our emotions are gonna be there and we're gonna struggle. Like humans are gonna struggle and you need to accept that struggle sometimes. And that's obviously saying a lot, but if we can accept the struggle, that ends up being kind of the starting point with therapy. And then from there, breaking shame is so important. Understanding that, yeah, there's nothing wrong with you for wanting sex. There's nothing wrong with you for learning that sex is a way to deal with things. Circumstances led to somebody learning sex is a way to cope. And that's basically it. So it's about that. And then learning other coping skills, your deep breathing and all those fun little tidbit things that
Yes.
any therapist will give you.
Yes, yes. Everyone has some a toolbox where you got all kinds of secrets where you could use, and a lot of people, if they can just go online right now, everything is available online anyway. You can
Oh,
just
yeah.
go in and say how to do this, or we just did it a little while ago, and you'll find the solutions. And it's the going to someone to help you with it if you feel that you can't do it on your own. Some people can handle it on their own, and some people really need that hand holding or maybe dig deeper to see where this all came from to begin with. Because sometimes just curing the symptom isn't helping you heal fully.
Yeah.
To get to the healing part where you don't repeat it, where you don't fall back into it again, is because you recognize the root cause and where it really came from. And that's what you're healing.
Yeah. Every day. That's what it's all about when it comes to the out of control sexual behaviors.
That's good to know. I hope whoever's out there and is thinking that, hey, maybe I am addicted to sex, just know that there's nothing wrong with you. It's just that you have to recognize and be aware of the habits, patterns, behaviors, if you're escaping, if you're just coping. And if you're not sure, go and get help and maybe you'll be guided to find out better ways to handle whatever it is that you got to handle. Now let's move on to another topic that I'm not excited to talk about, but I do want to talk about, which is erectile dysfunction. Okay, and that I did some research, okay, and you'll be impressed with me, Nick. I went online to get some numbers, and here's what I got. According to healthline.com and European Association of Urology guidelines, that's where this research came from, 52% prevalence in men aged 40 to 70 are reported to have sexual dysfunction. And in the most common worldwide, erectile dysfunction. And here's the question for you, Nick. Why is that erectile dysfunction so common?
Well, I think there's going to be a theme to our talk today, which is people aiming for normal. And that's the thing is when you age, your body is not the same when you are 20 versus when you are 40, 50, 60, 70, and your sex is not the same. And you gotta kind of adapt your sex based off of what your body is and what your partner's body is and all that. But because we think that, we're we're men, and an important part of being a man is being a good sexual lover, and then you're no longer have, as high of testosterone, or you have back issues that distract you, whatever it is, something is getting in the way of us believing that we can be a good sexual lover, or believing that we need to be a good sexual lover based off of whatever script society has taught us that looks like. And so when we're trying to fit into molds, we add stress. And I will tell you the number one thing that gets that erection down is anxiety.
Well, Nick, I wasn't planning to share this, but I'm gonna share, okay?
Yep.
It's not very comfortable to share, but for the sake of the conversation that we are having, I'll share a little bit. I've experienced on two separate incidents, two different people, where things were heated, we're moving into the right direction, and all of a sudden, deflation.
Yep.
Okay, I'm gonna use that word because that's the best way to say it. And it's like, hello, like what happened? Of course, when this happens, the man himself is going through a huge like stress, anxiety for sure. I just don't know what caused it. But also on the other end, like, okay, me as the woman, I'm thinking, like, did I cause this? Is it my fault? I think I'm good looking enough. I mean, it could make you wonder about you, or if you did something wrong, or if there's something wrong with you, you're not attractive enough, whatever it may be. And I'm sure there are women out there who have experienced this, or probably are experiencing this regularly, maybe. I don't know. And I want us to, so that's why I'm sharing. I'm sharing it simply for bringing it as an example, as a real life example. It's happening. It does happen. Oh, can you talk to us about that, Nick, from your expertise?
Okay, well, I will say when it comes to it depends on the relationship. The relationship itself can have an impact on yeah, our functionality sexually for sure. But the relationship has nothing to do with sexual attraction. They're kind of two separate things. And sometimes, if we're not feeling connected to our partner, or we're feeling that sex is maybe not a safe place with our partner, or honestly, if we're in our own head about, you know, this partner wants to have good sex and I want to give them good sex, but the thing is like you don't even have that conversation with your partner on like, oh, what do you consider good sex? What I consider good sex is this thing I saw in porn 5 years ago, and I'm going to keep using that as my goalpost. And whenever I don't hit it, I'm going to be like, oh, well, I didn't get her screaming for 5 hours straight, or whatever it is. Then they're, yeah, the conversation on what do you want out of sex and what is good sex for you is a conversation that a lot of people need to have with their sexual partners.
I think that's a huge point, the communication part. In many cases, there are no communication that happens because a lot of people just go with the flow of the moment,
Yeah.
right? In many situations, right? Where it's just you don't, because you feel that talking about it would ruin the moment, right? Most people would, right? Especially if it's not like a long-term relationship where you're able easily to talk about it. It's just like you're getting to know each other. You're dating just like a few dates or whatever, right? And something like this happens. So I'm saying unrealistic expectations can be one of the reasons. Feeling intimidated,
Yep.
wanting to perform. And I guess from a male perspective, there's a bit of an ego play where I want to prove something, right? Especially if there's been a lot of teasing verbally. Do you
Yep.
understand what I'm saying? Like a
Oh
lot of
yeah.
men have the tendency of talking big, right? Like, wait and see what I will do to you, like things like that, right? And
Oh
then
yeah.
next thing you know, they're in the moment and it's like they freeze. And it's like, what happened? What happened to all that talk that you were talking about what you're gonna do? You're doing nothing, none of that.
Oh yeah.
So
Exactly.
are you enjoying your journey on the healing train? I hope you are. Just as much as I am loving this conversation and every conversation with every guest. We are talking about sex, relationships, becoming empowered, and yes, healing too. We need to heal the old narrative around our relationship with sex, pleasure, and our bodies. A lot of work goes into these episodes, and I would love for more people to find this. If you felt how powerful my message is, support this channel, this platform, wherever you are tuning from. Give some love, comment, and share it. It only takes a few seconds to help this show and help me reach more people. Thank you. It's that I would say that's what causes the anxiety and the stress in the moment.
Exactly. And that's it, is sex itself, like sex is for a lot of people, it's pleasurable, it's connection building. It's a time where we can be free and just kind of be present in the moment and all that stuff. But a lot of us also, due to some of the messages we've been taught about sex, sex is very goal oriented. And when we view sex as like, it's not, it's only good sex if both people have orgasms, or orgasm is such a common one, of course. Simultaneous orgasms is good sex. It's like, oh yeah, that happens so frequently. Or whatever it is. So many people have these goals for sex. When you can let go of the goals and you can learn to just be present and just enjoy, that's honestly when good sex happens.
Hmm. So it's the expectations that we put on ourselves, stemming from the conditioning and what we've learned, and stemming from our ideas of what the end goal is or what our partner or the person that we are engaging with sexually at the moment needs or wants, assuming, not communicating, not finding out what's going on, and the strength and the connection of the relationship. I kind of summarized everything that we talked about.
Yeah.
Does that sound about right?
That's about right. The only thing I would add to it for sure, as something that can play a factor, is if the partner has expectations that have been kind of verbalized as like, I need you to perform. I need to know that you're going to last more than 5 minutes, or
Right.
whenever the partner's messages can spill into the person's own narrative on their anxiety, and that can be a contributing factor to why it's not getting inflated, I guess the opposite of deflated.
Thank you for going along with my terms.
Yeah.
There's there's also okay, an elephant in the closet here. Let's talk about the size. Okay, it does matter. Okay, and I'm not saying it in a shallow way whatsoever. Okay, it's very uncomfortable for me even talking about it, but I've had both. And again, I'm not the only woman that has, and I'm not ashamed to say that I have, and other people have, and that's fine. But I guess when you are with someone and the person that you're with at this point maybe haven't shown you yet what they got, okay? And you've expressed that you have been with others who, and you describe the size, they're
Yep.
already going into this like, oh my God, like I know what I got. I will never measure up. Then that means I'm gonna fail. That means it's not gonna be good. That means like whatever. I'm bringing it up again, not because I want to air my own dirty laundry, but because I want to bring this topic to the table, and I would love for you to talk about the size factor.
Honestly, the size factor exists, but I can't remember the exact number. But I do believe there are 8 different kinds of orgasms that a female can have. One of those 8 different kinds of orgasms is related to size. There are 7. Now, I am I am gonna say that I don't know the exact number right now, but the different kinds of orgasms, there are plenty of them that are not related to size. So I'm just gonna throw it out there right now that it's not how big the tool is, it's how you use the tool.
Yes. So if someone is feeling insecure about the size of whatever they have, okay, it's that's what they got. That's what they got, and that's the end of that, and they got to find a way to use it. So if that's the case, to learn other ways where you can pleasure your woman so that the size won't be a factor. I guess that would be the best advice we can give those who are in this situation.
Honestly, for most women, if I'm gonna like give honest advice, foreplay is way more important than the actual act of penetrative sex. And that is just going to be lots of women may have masturbation, may have orgasm during masturbation and never have it during penetrative sex. There's just so many factors with that, but foreplay is the most important part. And there's books out there and all sorts of stuff on the importance of foreplay. Very common one is called She Comes First by Ian Kermer. Uh, Great book. And yeah, it's all about the importance of, in particular, he talks a lot about oral sex, but also talks about how just sex in general, like the messages were given on like what good sex looks like versus what it doesn't, sometimes goes against the science of what works. Like lots of people believe in, going hard and fast, but honestly, you're more likely to achieve orgasm going slow. So yeah, there's some science with that too, for sure.
And again, from what we're talking here, we're saying understand your partner,
Yeah.
right? What worked with your previous partner isn't going to necessarily work with the one you're with now. And it's common that we're not going to be only with one partner for all of our lives. It is more common that we will have more than one partner. And that means we're going to have different sexual experiences. So learn their body,
Yeah.
learn their needs, and learn your chemistry together, right? Your sexual experience will be different from one dynamic to another simply because the person you're with is different, your energy is different, your feelings are different, your experience, like what you did in your teens is different from in your 20s, and 30s, and 40s, and 50s, and so on. You're a different person and you learn things along the way. So you incorporate them with the next partner. So you're never going to be that same person as you were with a different relationship because things have changed. And they bring out that side of you too, right? Some people can be more like calm and relaxed and they just want to do things the slow, romantic way. And that's what they like and it works. And some people want it the naughty, kinky, whatever way, and you want to experiment with all kinds of stuff. So, of course, your experience is going to be different. Your blood flow is going to be different. You may last differently. Everything, everything. So, it's all about understanding and knowing the partner that you're with now, and that will determine the success of your sexual relationship. One more thing I want to talk about on that subject before we move on is what are the implications on the sexual experience when it comes to alcohol and drugs?
Honestly, just at a base level, 100% because stimulants increase blood flow and depressants decrease blood flow. So, fact of the matter is, there's going to be less blood flow to the genitalia. That's just what's going to happen.
I mean, the most common is people will go have a drink, okay, and maybe drink a little bit too much, and then go home thinking they're gonna have like the greatest, sex ever. And more than one of those things could happen. Either the deflation happens from the get-go, right? There could be other factors too. Or let's say, okay, we skip the deflation and everything is fine, everything is going great, but the ejaculation isn't coming. Like the orgasm isn't happening for the man. Like the
Yeah,
woman, she might be fine. In most cases, she'll be fine. I can tell you that.
yeah,
It is usually from the male perspective that whereas like it's going and going and going, and it's like, okay, what's going on? So
yeah.
that could be a reason from the alcohol consumption and drug consumption, of course, as we said, but I'm just talking particularly about alcohol because that is the most common. I just want men out there to understand that when this happens, not to question themselves and say, what's wrong with me? I want them to understand, if they're listening or watching to this right now, that there is a reason, there is science behind it. And I'm going to leave the floor to you.
Sounds good. Well, there's science behind it because, yeah, it's just when you consume certain substances, it does desensitize you. You don't feel sensation at the same level. Um, and then on other levels, it's, I'm going to say it's the expectation stuff. It's, we're just going to keep hanging around that expectations are the big thing. And I'm going to tell anybody out there that when you are intoxicated, you are not the big stud that you think you are. That is the reality of the situation. When you are intoxicated, you are not your best, and you're not bringing your best to the space, and you're in there to do whatever your goal is when it comes to it. But it's lots of the time, sex is not about pleasure and it's not about connection when we add substances to the mix.
That's perfect. And I think the message is clear to everyone. We don't need to talk about it anymore. You get the point, okay? Actually, no, one more thing, one more thing. I want to talk about what happens when, I guess the right term would be premature ejaculation. Is that the right one? The opposite of it, where it's like you just started and boop, finish. You're like, what? What just happened?
Fair?
Like, why? Why this happens, Nick? Like, what could be the science behind it?
Okay. Well, number one, some people are hypersensitive. That's just the reality of the situation where some people's nerves are just super sensitive. And there are creams out there that do help with desensitization, and there are all sorts of different things that can help with that. Um, Condoms, there's tons of kinds of condoms that are developed specifically for that. Lubricants, all sorts of toys, all sorts of stuff that do work with that. But I will say, going back to what we've talked about today, delayed ejaculation, erectile issues, premature ejaculation, all three of them are related to goal oriented sex. That is the primary problem with that is when we need to react a particular way and we think that sex needs to look a particular way. Anxiety is what either pushes it out too fast, it's what keeps it in, or it's what stops the blood flow from actually getting it up and keeping it up. So, anxiety is the driving factor with all three of those.
Tell me if this is a myth, Nick. When men claim that the reason why they finished so fast is because they haven't had sex in such a long time, and that's why. Is that correct?
Um, that is a hard one to say because it's different from man to man. If you don't look at, like, let's say you don't look at a light for a long time, and then you look at it again, the intensity of the light is quite extreme, right? And so if you don't have sex for a while, there is the possibility that you might not have that desensitization from being exposed to touch. It's like, I guess that's the thing, is man to man. And that's going to be the theme with everything, is there's no such thing as normal.
Yes, I agree with you. No such thing as normal. There's no one size fits all. I mean, not talking about size here, but I mean, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
No,
yeah.
no solution, no solution for everyone. But I guess I know you can't really give advice, but a suggestion, okay? Does it make sense that if someone, a male, is aware that this happens frequently for him when he goes out with someone and he's going to have a sexual experience, that it might happen that he will release too quick? Would it be good to tell this person, perhaps masturbate before you go out on your date? I'm sorry.
Yeah, yeah. No,
I had
that's
to say it, okay? Like, I don't know how else to say it.
well, yeah, what's that movie? There's something about Mary or
Oh,
whatever.
yeah. Oh,
Yeah.
God.
Yeah. 100%. Yeah, I don't I honestly don't know.
Okay.
I don't know where I yeah. No advice.
All right. And
That's
it's
what
fair.
else.
It's fair because you have a license to protect and you can't tell anyone anything that it's not scientific or that you are aware of. But I mean, I heard this. I'm just saying, as a normal, regular person here having this discussion, is that I've heard from men themselves when they've told me that this works for them if they were to, release before they go out on a date. They're much clearer. The tension isn't there. And they're just able to enjoy themselves on the date. And that if they are going to engage, because sometimes you don't know, you're just going with the flow, right? You don't plan these things. It's just the moment happens. So if it does happen, then they already know that they have released and they can, you know, remove that tension of what would happen anyway, moving on from that subject, we've actually talked about the male anatomy a lot, and we've talked about issues and conditions with men. I want to switch it up a little bit and go to women. Okay, it's
Yeah.
only fair. And I'm wondering, Nick, again, from your line of work, I know you've said that mainly it's couples come to you because they want to like reconnect and they think there's normal sex and all of that, but is it possible? I mean, I'm sure it is possible that women themselves during the act of sex that they would get a complete like turn off and they're checked out and they just don't want to continue with the activity anymore. What could what are the possible causes? I know there could be many, many, and we cannot sit in here list them all, but some that you are aware of and that you can discuss.
Honestly, yeah, there's so many for both men and women, 100%. Um, it can literally be as something as the laundry machine going off, or a kid crying. Obviously, those are kind of responsibility focused types of things. Get us out of the mood. Um, Somebody does something that we didn't necessarily consent to in the process, and then we feel like our body's been invaded in some sort of way. That's gonna instantly shut everything down. There's just so many different things. Stress comes just randomly into the head on like, oh, what am I going to wear to work tomorrow? Or like whatever it is. There's so many things. I will say the thinking brain can sometimes get in the way of being present. And the other thing is goal oriented sex. Women have goals with sex too, quite a bit of the time. And if you're going for a bit and you know, there's a like, oh, well, he's not coming, then it's this thing, well, okay, well, what can I do to make him come? And then it's once again, is it you're not enjoying it anymore. It's not about pleasure anymore. Why would you want to keep doing something that's not pleasurable for you? And there was one other thing, but I forgot it. So
No, you mentioned something very important, and that relates to being unhealed. Actually, it's amazing how our wounds, our unhealed wounds, emotionally and mentally, have a great factor in our sexual experiences. It truly does. And a lot of people aren't paying attention to that. They think sex is the not solution, but like it was supposed to make you feel better, right? Like as if it's a
Mhm.
medicine, which it isn't. Or it's supposed to fix two people after they've had a fight, like, oh, let's just have sex and everything's going to be fine. When meanwhile, they avoid talking about the actual issue. Well, hello, sex isn't going to fix the issue. You still have to deal with the issue. And I feel, in my opinion, that if you have this people pleasing, taking on to yourself a weight on your shoulder that doesn't belong to you, you're going to do that in sex as well. And that explains perfectly what you just explained. That if, let's just say, he's just this, whatever's happening with him, and she takes it on like, okay, what can I do now? Now, mind you, when two people are in this experience, in this dynamic, it's a shared responsibility to please each other. And sometimes one will fall out briefly, and the other one can bring it back up and continue 100%. I've lived it myself. Maybe you have as well. I think that's a normal thing, that it will
Yep.
happen at some point with your partner where you kind of do whatever you have to do, switch things up, and then you get the everything back on. But we're talking about where she now takes it on herself that it's her responsibility.
Yeah.
And it isn't her responsibility. It's also
Oh, yeah.
his. And it's his responsibility to communicate with her, not leave the poor thing take on something that she shouldn't. And he's just sitting back, yeah, okay, let me see what you're gonna do. Like, no, it's not like that. And that's
No.
not right. He needs to understand it, and she needs to understand that. Can we
Oh,
talk
yeah.
more about that? I really want to talk more about that.
Sounds good. Well, let's talk about the scripts of society. We can talk about that for the next, what, 12 hours? Yeah. No, and that's kind of it, is unfortunately, a lot of women and some men for sure, but a lot of women lived with a script on their job as a woman is to please their man. And that is unfortunate that that is a message that is given because it's no longer about doing the things that we all enjoy. And I will tell you, like there's a lot of science out there to talk about the different emotional spaces that good sex occurs and pleasurable sex occurs. Emily Nagoski talks about this forever, so if anyone's interested, check out her stuff for sure. One big thing with it that she talks about is that, and this is all mammalian brains. This is a concept by Jaak Panksepp, is his name, and talks about there are 7 different emotional spaces that all mammals live with. 4 of them are pleasure favorable spaces, according to Emily Nagoski, and 3 of them are pleasure adverse spaces. And when we, so the pleasure favorable spaces are lust, obviously, that's important, play, care, and seeking, which kind of is like curiosity and exploration and all that kind of stuff. More pleasure adverse spaces are fear, panic, grief, and rage. We are having sex from in those 3 spaces, we're probably not having pleasure favorable sex. And so, if we're doing something out of panic or out of fear versus doing something we actually want to do, well, then we're not really doing something we're going to enjoy.
And we're going to reap the rewards of whatever we choose.
Yeah, exactly. It's a mess. And there's no, yeah, got to deconstruct a lot of societal messages, which honestly, that's 95% of what my job is deconstructing the messages that people have been taught about sex and what normal sex is.
Normal in parentheses, right? Like
Yeah,
normal.
yeah, exactly. Whatever it means.
I want us to talk about something that would bring joy to this conversation. If you are able to share, of course, I would respect if you say no, I can't. But without saying names or anything, a case study of yours, like a couple that came to you with a particular issue that you find very common and some exercises or things that they had to work on and it got them reconnected and a better like sex life after. If you may recall something that comes to mind.
Honestly, maybe I'll do a more general one.
Yeah, sure.
Talking about what I just talked about. Actually, the concept with those seven different emotional spaces is actually a super popular one that is done in the sex therapy realm. It is called the emotional floor plan. And basically, the activity is let's figure out what can pull you into and push you out of certain spaces and get you into spaces where pleasure is more favorable. And so it's a very lengthy conversation to have, and you definitely need to brush up on your definitions of these emotional systems for sure. But when you know that information, you can know, like, okay, what can I do to help pull my partner out of panic grief so that they are in a more care space or more playful space where it might actually lead, it could lead to sex for sure. But just in general, I think we like being in play and care a lot more than we like being in those other spaces. So I have done that exercise with so many people where we sit there, we develop their emotional floor plan. Usually I get them to draw it at home, kind of make it a bit of like an actual visual image. And then, yeah, we talk about it more and they help each other understand this is what gets me closer to the lust room. And this is what definitely pushes me away from the lust route. And then the other one is honestly just metaphors can make talking about sex so easy. um, my personal favorite metaphor, which some people do pizza, some people do salad, so many different things. Come up with basically what do you like in your salad? What do I like in my salad? And now let's make a salad that both of us actually want to eat. And it's seriously use that with sex, and you can find good sex. It exists when you have those
It
conversations.
sounds so good. I actually like that. I never heard that one before.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one of my favorites for sure. I use the pizza one more than I use the salad one though.
The salad can be too messy.
Yeah, 100%.
Too many
And
ingredients.
exactly. Too many ingredients. But if everyone likes all the ingredients, then go for it.
Now would be the perfect time for you to share how can someone connect with you and work with you.
Well, best way would be, I guess, my website, erostherapeutic.ca. You can email me at nick@erostherapeutic.ca as well. Um, for the most part, I will let you know that I am kind of restricted to working with people in Alberta. But I can definitely send you links or anything like that to resources that are in your area and whatever works. So yeah, those are probably the best ways. I tell everyone, do not ever phone me just because I'm either in session or I'm at home. So I will not pick up the phone.
I think most people don't call anymore. Most people either email or social media. That's
Oh
the
yeah,
thing these days anyway.
I do have social media as well. Yes,
Perfect.
Insta.
I'll have that in the show notes for people to connect or maybe just follow you if you're sharing any tips. It would be great. Any little bit that can help us on our journey of healing and having better sex relationships or reconnect with our partner or do the unlearning and the unconditioning. Any bit of that helps right now, Nick. And I do appreciate that you came on the show and had this discussion with me, which is uncomfortable for me, okay? But I'm doing my best and I'm getting the courage to say what needs to be said, to put it all out on the table, simply, like I said, to raise awareness, to educate, to help people know that there is help out there and that don't internalize it and think that there's something wrong with you. Maybe there's some things that you need to work through but separate your behavior and your actions with who you are as a person. You are whole and complete and beautiful just as you are, men and women. And no matter what you choose, you will be fine. Any last words, Nick?
Well, I guess thanks for having me on here. This was fun. I always enjoy a good sex talk. But I do it all the time, so not as uncomfortable for me. But I will definitely say that when I started, this was super uncomfortable. And the fact is our society stigmatizes sex like no tomorrow. And the only way that we can actually break that is by talking about it. So, although it's uncomfortable, we all got to talk about it. Talk about it with our partners, talk about it with our friends. Maybe be careful on like talking about it with coworkers and stuff like that, but there's definitely appropriate places to talk about sex. And honestly, the sex education most of us got is not enough. So
Or
pick
wrong?
up, yeah, or wrong, definitely. So picking up a book can change your view of yourself, of your body. So many things that yeah, get lost in this whole messy world of trying to fit something that works for you into the box that works on average, which average sucks.
The
So yeah,
theme
that's
of today, Nick. There is no thing as normal sex.
no, not
It
at all.
doesn't exist.
No, exactly. That is definitely the theme for today. No such thing as normal sex, and yeah, the more you aim for normal, the more disappointed you will be.